bad about democracy is the idea of polarization. Okay, polarization. Okay, why? Because in a democracy, you have different political parties. And they can reach a point where they just refuse to work together. And all they care about is destroying each other, regardless of the consequences for the nation in geopolitics. And this is what's happened in the United States so far right now, where in America, Trump hates the Democrats much more than he hates the Russians or the Chinese or the Iranians, okay? All right, so the way you put America into check is by enhancing the polarization and causing a civil war. Okay,
well, you know, I've always said I think America's greatest risk is not homicide, it's suicide. And so I think reminding ourselves of what we have in common and reigniting the national spirit for innovation and excellence. We are a great nation. There's no nation who has more to be proud of than we do. And that is ultimately the case for optimism. I'd say, you know, one more maybe off the wall comment is, in the end, the reason we're going to win in whatever domain it is that we're crazy. You know, even we don't know what we're going to do when we get punched in the face. And I think that's actually an exceptional quality. It speaks to the plasticity and adaptability of the American mind and how we innovate.
Alex, the
Iranians are not afraid to fight to the death. Yes, the Americans and the Israelis have bigger weapons, they have more soldiers, they have more money. It doesn't matter. What's important is to fight for what you believe in, to set a good example for future generations. Okay, so that's the Iranian system, and that's why the Iranians will never surrender in this war, no matter how bad it gets.
People think democracies end with a coup d'état or, you know, tanks in the street or somebody shooting up the presidential palace, but actually, in the modern world, they mostly end because someone who is legitimately elected begins to take apart the system and take away the things that ensure free elections can continue. And I started watching that happen in multiple countries at the same time. And I saw this authoritarian instinct start to come back. And
AI ranked 29 out of 39. So although AI is not very popular, it is certainly not top of mind for voters. It's not in the top 10 issues. It's not in the top 20 issues. What is top of mind for voters? Number one, cost of living. Number two, the economy. And we know that AI is deflationary. It helps with the cost of living, and it's creating an economic boom right now, okay? It's 75% of GDP growth in Q1. By the way, that economic growth is not just limited to startups in Silicon Valley. We're seeing a construction boom. We're seeing a blue-collar boom. We're seeing 25 to 30% wage increases for construction workers.
Feeds into conspiracy theories is McNamara deliberately deceives Congress about what's going on. He says this was an unprovoked attack. Now we know, and this was not known at the time, but the time U.S. is actually conducting covert operations against North Vietnam, and probably has something to do with the fact that they attack the American ships. And so McNamara, he comes out as one of the most disreputable people out of all of this, I think. And this is a case where he misled the American people.
Do we know why he did it?
I think he just felt that it might get a little too messy if people knew that there was some gray areas in here, that maybe this was not purely unprovoked aggression. And again, so that also wouldn't probably look great with the election coming up. But we do.
Like Chrysler, yes, they make minivans. They also make missiles. They are the prime contractor on the Minuteman, the original Minuteman missile. Ford made satellites until 1990. General Mills, the cereal company, made torpedoes and inertial guidance systems.
That sounds like crazy today.
It sounds great. And you could say, why? Why is that even rational? Well, General Mills, the cereal company, had a mechanics division to make machinery to process grain. Everything they learned about building that type of machinery, they were able to repurpose it into machine tools and factory production that subsidize our national security. We lived in a world where every car, camera, and cereal box that an American bought was actually subsidizing the R&D against our national security.
Mark Zuckerberg has stolen the last 10 years of your mother's life before she got dementia and Alzheimer's. Mark Zuckerberg has stolen that. The last 10 years of grandma's life, where's grandma? She's on Facebook. She's drunk and she's fighting with someone she's never met. And that's how people get old now. They get old on the internet and they spend their golden years, the last years on this planet, where they still have moving legs and they can still walk. They spend it shut in their home on Facebook talking about Iran.
So what I'm trying to explain here, and what is very important, is that each of these four different players, United States, Russia, Iran, and Israel, they have their own worldview. They have their own understanding. And that's what drives their actions. Okay? And the other thing to remember is that what's really interesting between these four worldviews is that they're actually not in conflict with each other. Okay? And these four worldviews, it's what's going to drive geopolitics for the next 5 to 10 years. And
400-foot destroyer, if it's autonomous, because the destroyer has a freaking hotel on it, that is 180 foot's all weapons. So you actually have more weapons on the 180 footer than the destroyer.
Damn.
Which is pretty cool, right? And by the way, in a battle, what's the destroyer do in a battle? It has to run away. It's 500 lives. It's going to get wiped out. These guys don't have to run away. They can freaking charge, right? And you have a lot more of them for the same cost. So Saronic with
your perspective is you either don't fight, or if you do fight, you fight to win. And the reason that the Vietnam...
Theodore thought, look, I'm a genius at physics, so I must be a genius at geopolitics. And in his conception of the world, the only way to have world peace was for two countries to have the bomb. Mm-hmm. So without any penchant for communism or even an ill will towards America, he thought this was his moral duty, was to walk into the Soviet trade mission in New York in 1944 and give them secrets to the bomb. But what happened was not world peace. Every death since 1949 from communism, which is the year the Soviets got the bomb, you could say that blood is at least partially on Theodore Hall's hands. And so I think we live in a world where many smart people struggle with epistemic humility. What are the limits of my knowledge? How do I have some humility around that? You know, because the alternative, you could say Theodore Hall was essentially tyranny by tech bro.
Identity politics was like gay and woke for the longest time until the white guy in his 20s was forced to confront himself with either we developed some in-group racial preference, or we're going to go extinct, I think.
What's just so interesting is that I've noticed that this administration, which I think was elected to end identity politics, is engaged in the most aggressive identity politics, but only on behalf of 2% of the population. And so every single tweet from every person I know in the administration's like, Harvard's real problem is that it's discriminating against Jews. Meanwhile, it's like 20% Jewish with a Jewish president. And the one group that is provably unrepresented is high SAT scoring, high IQ Christian white kids.
The firm creates networks of social media pages on TikTok and uses them to drive the band's music into the recommendation algorithm. Songs are dropped into the backgrounds of videos, live clips are shared, sometimes burner accounts, comments, and whole ecosystems of interactions can be fabricated out of digital cloth, stoking and sometimes completely manufacturing discourse around an artist. These ginned up interactions push the songs and the discussion around them higher up platforms' algorithm rankings. Social media platforms are increasingly where real fans discover new music. We can drive impressions on anything at this point, Spellman told Billboard. We know how to go viral. We have thousands of pages. Spellman has dubbed the process trend simulation.
Imagine if John D. Rockefeller was way better at public relations, and instead of calling his company Standard Oil, he called it Safe Oil. Okay, let's just play this thought experiment.
Clean, beautiful coal. Yes.
Safe oil. You call it safe oil because, as we know, kerosene is dangerous. Their first big product was kerosene. And kerosene can light your house or it can burn it down. And in the wrong hands, it can torch a city, or you can use it to make a bomb. So John D., let's say, should have called for the creation of a new government agency to regulate the safety of his product. And they could have done rigorous testing, licensing, common sense regulation. There would have been a very intense debate over safety standards. You know, what should the proper wick thickness be? And should we allow all those dangerous independent refiners, right? And I think people would have gotten so wrapped up in this debate over what constituted.
There's a repeating pattern of how new technology is received by the different age cohorts in society. He said, if you are, when a new technology arrives, whatever it is, in this case AI, he said, if you're below the age of 15, he said, this is just how the world's always worked. It's just obvious. And then if you're between the ages of 15 to 35, this is cool and nifty, and you can probably get a career using it. And then if you're above the age of 35, this is unholy and against everything that society stands for and should absolutely be destroyed.
Fire aid, 100 million raised. Every single person I talk to messaging me, no one's getting this money. No one's seeing a dollar. I go to Washington. I ask senators to investigate this. We open up the case. Now all of a sudden, Fire Aid puts out a legal letter to defend themselves. In their own legal letter from the law firm, they say several of these NGOs gave directly to fire victims. The list for the 100 million is 200 plus. Google several. It's under 10. So even in their defense, they're telling you, and again, I don't believe one of those 10 gave directly. The people that they said did, they're like, we gave gift cards. Who would you give gift cards to? You don't think one fire victim, they're messaging me all day long, said, hey, I got a $500 gift card. So that's when I learned firsthand that these NGOs will take and right in your face 100 million and just steal it.
About this whole administration, if I were that rich, like what's the point of being rich if you can't say what you think? Mm-hmm. I don't understand the value of it.
Can I hazard a guess as to why the incentive structure they're trapped in?
What's your guess?
I think that being rich for these people is actually just a proxy of status. And I think the thing that risks their status, which is what they care about more than anything else in the games that they're playing, is losing to their direct competition. And it's quite clear to me that if someone like Sam Altman was to say anything negative about Trump, it would of course hurt his business, but actually it would hurt something more, which is his status. He would lose to Anthropic and XAI and Gemini.
Like, what do we have to gain here? To topple a regime? Like, how successful have been the regimes that we toppled previously? Like, has there ever been a successful one? Has there ever been one where we toppled the regime and the people were better off for it? I don't remember any.
Dan, you're a world-class poker player, likely an expert in game theory. I mean, if you were going to try to imagine what Trump's mindset is around all this, what would you think it is?
I think he's blackmailed, and I think that he is trying to make as much money for himself and his family as possible. I think this presidency was a necessity for him. He had 36 felony charges. I don't think he was doing very well financially. You look at where